Hola, yo soy Annia, estás en Chic y hoy estamos con Diane Pernet, una gran icono de la moda. It's the second time you present a shaded view of fashion film.
Yes, it's the second time in Mexico City, and it's the second year of ASVOFF. Before that, I had another festival called You Wear It Well for 2 years.
How did you start your love affair with fashion?
I've loved fashion and film since I was a little girl. So, yeah, from forever. I was a designer when I was living in New York for 13 years, with a license in Tokyo for about 5 years. And then I did a costume designer for a year or so in Paris. So I don't really design anymore.
Which was your criteria to work with this artist?
Well, we did an open call first on my blog, and then I also contacted directors that I really like Nick Knight from Show Studio, Erwin Olaf, which is a film that will open the festival. He's an artist and a filmmaker and a photographer. Stephen Klein, he's quite established as a fashion photographer, but now getting into film, which is something that almost all fashion photographers are doing now, because the medium of fashion film is exploding. It's just at the beginning stages, but it's very important. But I also have filmmakers that have nothing to do with fashion, that collaborate with designers, and that's what I find really interesting, the intersection between filmmaking and fashion. Well, the whole idea of the festival is to show the diversity of fashion. We have directors like Griffin, who did the film with Rodarte, who's coming from a director's perspective, or Benjamin Sorosi, a young French director. And we have someone in London, Fred Butler, and it's working more on the aesthetic, just the image, more than coming from a strict fashion background. I just think it's interesting to show like documentaries, fiction, just art films, whatever. It's a form of, there's many facets to how you can express fashion. My blog was one of the first fashion blogs. I started in February 2005. But prior to that, I was an editor for Elle.com, and then after that for like 3 years, and then an editor for VogueParis.com for about the same amount of time. But when you work for a big publication like that, you're very limited to covering your advertisers. You can't just cover anything that interests you. And with the blog, I cover fashion, but I cover film, I cover architecture, art, music, anything that I think is interesting, because that's what a shaded view is. And of course, with the blog, I'm able to promote filmmakers, designers, and give them an international visibility. And I'm also a co-editor-in-chief for a magazine, Zoo Magazine. And we have maybe 90,000 distribution, or it's 4 times a year. So the reach of a blog and the reach of many publications, it's not even close. I'm interested in creativity wherever I can find it, and I'm very interested in the emerging markets, because I think it's foolish to just focus on Paris, New York, Milan, London. I think there's so much going on everywhere. And one motivation for showing in Mexico City is I really, really want some directors to propose films for the next edition. And the criteria is just anything from 30 seconds to 5 minutes, but where the fashion has to play a role. But how you express it, it's quite open.